Hey folks, today I'm going to show you how I install my drip system in my raised beds over there coming from my standard hose bib. Now the first thing that I do is on all of my hose bibs I have a backflow preventer. Now what this is this little brass thing here that connects to the bib. It only allows water to flow one way, and that is out. The purpose of this is that anything you have attached to this, whether it be a garden hose or a drip system or a lawn sprinkler, anything like that, anything that can get in the system into the hose will not be able to get back up into the water system and then conceivably work its way back into the house where you could actually ingest it. So that's the purpose of this, is to keep any contaminants from flowing back into the system. So that's the first thing that I have, and I have these on all my outdoor hose bibs. The second thing that I install is a splitter on my bib. And then the purpose of this is I can run my drip system off one side, and I can run the standard hose that I have for just watering, pots and stuff I have laying around, so that I can, I can run two things at one time with this. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this on. And the good thing about this little splitter is it has shut-off valves for each side. And this also is a pretty cheap one, but it's just plastic. They do make these ones that are like brass and they have lead in them, and I don't like those. I don't, whenever it says, known in the state of California to cause cancer, that kind of like, you might as well draw a skull and crossbones on it as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so the next thing I install after that is I install my timer. Now this timer is just a cheap, well, I don't want to say cheap, I want to say inexpensive. It's only about 20 bucks, and it's a manual timer, and it's a 2-port manual timer. And the way that this works is you just turn it to the amount of time that you want your water to run. And it does have a manual on. You can turn it to manual on, and then it'll just run as long as you want. So this goes up to 120 minutes. So you turn this all the way up to here, and it'll run for 120 minutes. Then of course you can back it off at any time. And this also has a little kind of a screen, not really filter, but it's a screen to keep kind of like sediment and stuff out. So that goes on next. So we put this on here like that, and then the next thing we want to install a pressure regulator. Now what this does is my well puts out quite a bit of pressure. My well's putting out about 30 gallons a minute, and what this will do is that's just way too much pressure for a drip system. It'll just blow those emitters right off of there. So you want to back that pressure off. So this is a standard, you get them in different sizes. I think you get like 10, 15, 20, 30 PSI. I've got a 30 PSI because I have quite a long run, and they're pretty good sized beds. So I go ahead and install this on there, and let me show you how this works. You'll notice a big difference. Let me turn both of these on, and then I'll turn this on, and you'll notice a big difference when I turn the water on. Now, so you notice this is a pretty good force. That's not on all the way, but that's a pretty good force, and that's just a steady stream. So this is, when I turn that all the way up, it starts getting quite a bit of pressure, but this will only allow 30 PSI. Okay, so that's my next step. Now, the next step is to install a filter. Now this filter here, you'll see where it has the arrow. The arrow is out this way, so the water's going to come out, so you need to install it like this. Now this filter here, when I say filter, I'm not talking about contaminants and things like that. I'm only talking about sediment. I'm talking about like any kind of dirt or anything like that that can get into the system somehow. And it just unscrews here, and it's let me show you. It's just a washable filter where you can just take it and just wash it out and stuff like that. So that's that. Okay, so this is not a really complicated system. I think a lot of people are intimidated by these because they've never done them or seen them operate. It's a very really simple system to install a drip system, and there's a million ways that people do this. So the next step, out of the filter, this is threaded. Now there's two schools of thought here. I've seen some people take a standard half-inch tube, a drip system tube connector, and thread it in, and then they run their drip tube, their half-inch drip tube out all the way to the raised beds. Now I don't do that. Now I should also show you what's going on here, the color coding. Now this green, this means that this is a 1/2-inch tubing. So the 1/2-inch tubing, it's basically just kind of a friction fit. You just pop the tube in, you know, push it in really good, and it just stays in. Now that's great, and I know that it works for a lot of people, but I don't do that because this, I don't have it, well, it's a ways away from here, but the standard you know, the drip tubing is not really thick. It's not hard, and it's susceptible to breakage and whatnot. So I don't use that at the source. What I have is I use a regular PVC connector. I put my PVC connector in, okay, and then what I do is I run standard PVC pipe. I'll go down with a little elbow, go down, and then I'll bury it about 6 inches underground, and I'll go all the way over to my bed, and then I'll come up in my bed all with standard PVC pipe, because I think PVC pipe is just, it's the best way to go. It's not susceptible to breakage, and I trust it a lot better than I do that flexible. And when we get to the raised bed, I'll show you how flexible that pipe really is, and I think you'll understand. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put an elbow in here, go down. I'm going to go all the way over to the raised bed, which is about 20 feet from here, and then I'm going to come up in the raised bed. And then when I get to the raised bed, I'll show you how I connect the drip line to the standard PVC pipe. Okay? Okay, so here I am at the raised bed. Now you'll notice I've come up here with 3/4 pipe. I got my pipe coming in my trench here. I just need to fill that in. The 3/4 pipe comes up, and I've got a T-joint on here. Now the reason for the T-joint is because I have a raised bed over there. This is my grape arbor right here. I have a raised bed, a full raised bed there. This one here is still a work in progress. So what I've done is I've taken a connector here. Well, first off, I've got a reducer that takes the 3/4 to 1/2 inch. And then I have a 1/2 inch pipe running this way to go to the other bed. And then on this one here, you take a little connector. I got one right here, I'll show you. This connects 1/2 inch PVC to this drip tubing, this 1/2 inch drip tubing. Now you'll take a look at this drip tubing, and you'll see how flexible this is. It's very flexible. It's not very thick. It's pretty durable for its size, but I don't trust it underground, like I said. Now, you have to take one of these connectors, connect it to here, and then the tubing just pops in. I've got a small piece of tubing here that I cut, pops into there, and then pops into here, into an elbow, and then this is just capped off here. This is just what's called a hose plug, an end plug, and I put this on here so that I can run my system and not have to worry about it dripping out this side, because I'm still working on this side. So now for this side here, what I have is, you'll notice I have the 1/2 inch going around, coming up, and I have one of these connectors right here at the end of the PVC. I push in the 1/2 inch drip tubing, and then I've got it going up here over top of my grape arbor, and then down over here. Now you'll notice where I've got it right here, I've got another elbow coming down into this bed, and then I go back into another one of these because I want to go back to PVC pipe, because I want to put in this ball valve. So what I've done is I put a small piece of 1/2 inch in here of PVC pipe, put the ball valve in, another piece of 1/2 inch pipe, and then a connector with a screw end on it, and then this here is a connector that you use. It's called a compression adapter, 1/2 inch. So basically I've gone from the 1/2 inch tubing to PVC with the valve, and then back to the tubing. And then once I go back to the tubing, then I bring it along where I want it. Okay, so now let me show you some ways that you can attach this tubing and make it work for your beds. Okay, so what I've done here is I've started my bed, my tubing in my bed on this side here. Now, like I said before, there are millions of ways that you can do this. These two rows here are how I like to do them. But you can do it any way you want, and I don't think there's really a wrong way or a, or the right way to do it. I think if you can just centralize your drip and control the amount of water going to each plant, I think you've got it made. So yeah, I mean, there are so many people that are so dogmatic about it that, they'll criticize the way people have their drip systems. But, whatever works for you, that's the right way. So the way that I do it is I take my 1/2 inch tubing and I go right along the plant row. Okay, and then what I do is at each plant I pop in an emitter. These emitters here are a 2 gallon per hour emitter. The thing I like about these, they're called flag emitters. Let me show you one right here. The beauty of these is that you can pop these apart and you can clean them. That's why I like these. A lot of the other ones that they look like kind of little kids' tops that you spin. I don't like them because they're encapsulated. They're just plastic and encapsulated, and you can't pop them open and clean them. These here you can clean. That's why I use these. Okay. So now, this is the configuration that I use, and there are some people that will take and run one, like I've got over here. They will run one down the center here, and I just put this one in so you guys could see it. They will run a tube down the center of 2 rows, and then they will take this tubing here, this little 1/4 inch tubing, and they will take the 1/4 inch tubing and then pop it in to the hose with a small connector like this, and basically you pop your hole in, push this in, and then the little tubing, 1/4 inch tubing, goes onto that, and then your little emitter goes onto the end of the tubing. So, you know, you just cut off the certain amount of length that you need. And I don't do it that way because this little tubing, this is, let me see if you can see how small that is. It doesn't like to play well. And once you put these in, a lot of times when you pop these in and then you get it just where you want it, and it's perfect, and then you'll walk away, the sun will come out or something, and this thing was perfectly on the plant, and all of a sudden it's decided that it wants to be over here. And I've had just bad luck with those, so I don't use them. But what you can also do is you can anchor them somewhat with these little anchors. You pop this in, and then your tubing goes, it just snaps into the tubing like this, and then you push this in, and it kind of helps it. But this doesn't always work either. I've seen these just pull right out, especially if you have soft soil. Like mine's pretty loamy, and unless you've got like rock and you can jackhammer something in and epoxy it in, I don't like these. I've just never had good luck with these. I come out a lot of times and I'm spending half my time fixing those tubes, so I don't typically use them. But I ran it down here so that you could see, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put one in so that you can see it. Now the first thing that you want to do is, if you have a pair of trimmers, that's what I use to cut this tubing with. Okay, and then to make the hole, you have a little tool like this that you just squeeze and it punctures a hole in the tubing. Now these here are pretty self-explanatory. You just take and squeeze, you figure out where you want the hole, pop it in, drop the emitter in, and you're done. These here, you have to be a little more careful. The reason is because you want to be able to get it at least angled toward the plant. So you want to kind of have it off to the side, kind of like this. Okay, so you kind of line it up and squeeze like that, and you'll notice that it's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of, off to one side like that. And then you take and you measure your tubing about like this, and you cut your tubing. Okay, you take your connector like that and you pop it in. You should hear it pop like that. And then you just pop this on like that, and then you throw your emitter on. Whoops, yeah, like that. Whoop. See, that's another reason why I don't like these. If you don't push those in all the way, they just kind of walk away from you. Okay, so there we go. And then you take your little thing here, and you're good to go. You can turn this down like this, and you just aim it right at the bottom of the plant, and you're good to go. Now, like I say, I don't like these because these are they don't play well. So now another way that I've seen some people do, which I don't like, and I don't know why they do it. I suppose they save a lot of money on these little emitters, but what they will do is they will kind of suspend this a little bit, and they'll just pop the holes in like this along the way. They don't bother using emitters, and they just let the water kind of drip out of the holes. And you could do that. You could regulate it down there at the ball valve. That's why I put the ball valve in. And you could do it that way, but the problem is that as dirt kind of kicks up and whatnot, it can fill into the holes, and then you've got dirt in your lines, and you don't want to do it that way. So now, one other thing too is that when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you use plenty of these anchors. And if you've got really loose soil like I do, you're going to have to use quite a few of them. Now, what will happen is as the sun comes out, these will, as they heat up, they will kind of soften up and kind of mold themselves to the bed. So it's not as critical, as it warms up. But right now, these things come in a big spool, huge spool, and it just likes to kind of like jump up on you. So be aware of that. And now let me show you over here what I've done. On this side right here, what I've done is, you see this? I have another one of these end hose plugs. And the reason why I have this, now this will end up going all the way down when I put more rows in. The reason why I will keep this here, and this is just going to stop at the corner of the bed, is because sometimes, every couple months or so, you're going to want to blow these out. So I pull this over to the side, and then I turn the water on full bore, and I just let it flush the system. That way if there's any dirt or anything in there, it'll just flush the system completely out. So that's why I have an end plug on that. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to show you these emitters operating. Okay, so now I'm over here at my ball valve, and what I'll do is I'll just turn this on a little bit so you can see it. Okay, now here's the beauty of having that valve in here, is that I can adjust how much pressure that I want coming out to each plant. When I crank it up, right there, I'm running about 2 gallons per hour right there, or about. Now these are little seedlings, and I don't want 2 gallons per hour running there because they're really small. So I have the ability with this valve is to crank this down like that and just let them kind of drip out like that. Okay, and you'll notice this one here is working fine too. And I'm just going to go ahead and put, the rest of these in along here, but I typically don't do it this way. And there's some people that like it that way, but as these plants get bigger, the root systems will get pretty big. So as long as they're in the proximity of the root, you're going to be just fine. Okay, so I know a lot of people ask, well, why would I want to use a drip system? Well, for one reason, the biggest reason is you want to target just the plants. You want to water just the plant. And the second thing is that you're not watering weeds. If you were to just spray this bed with water and saturate it, you're going to be helping the weeds grow and anything else that's in there. And thirdly is you're preserving water, which is a really good thing. And also when you spray water back and forth, you're not only just spraying the whole bed, you're watering the wood and you're watering the ground outside, and so yeah, this is the way to go. So I would love to hear any comments you might have. I'd love to see your systems, post videos, give me links and whatnot, and I'd love to see how you guys have yours. So, all right, well, there is the way I do it, and I'm not necessarily saying it's the right way or the most efficient way, but it's the way I've been doing it. So, okay, and one thing I need to add is that you want to make sure that if you live in an area where you get freezing temperatures at night, you want to make sure that you take this system down and put it in for the winter, because it's just not going to withstand. So you got plastic stuff here, and this timer just is not going to last. So you want to make sure that you do take it down and drain the system, blow the PVC pipe out and all the tubing and stuff like that, blow it out before you put it away, and well, before you put this away. I just leave the tubing and everything in the bed, but yeah, you want to make sure that you just get this off before it freezes. So, all right, catch y'all later. Be sure to stop over to growyourheirlooms.com, where we have podcasts, gardening Q&A, tips on year-round gardening, survival gardening, and current projects that are going on.